Hello and welcome to our latest episode of the La Project with me, your host Han Royani, and my co-host
BJ, what's up?
Alright, so today we've got a very special guest, so we're just gonna get right into it. Let's start with some easygoing news, shall we? Trump recently released an AI video of what he expects Gaza to look like once he's done with it.
After the rebuilding project's done?
Yeah. Have you seen this video?
I have not seen the video.
It's crazy, man. It's an AI video.
We'll send it over to the producers so
Yes.
we can touch it. Yeah.
Number one, Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light.
So basically, in the video, you can see like how at the start Gaza is uninhabitable.
Yeah.
So they're planning to like change Gaza into what they call the Riviera of the Middle East.
Yeah. Of the Red Sea, right?
Yeah. So in the AI video, you can see Trump and Bibi Netanyahu chilling on a beach with their shirts off. You can see Elon Musk throwing money in the air on the beach, and you can see like some of the like skyscrapers being built over in Gaza. So it's absolutely crazy, and it's amazing how the world is just letting
Why
Trump.
is it crazy though? Why is it crazy?
Okay, first of all, it's ethnic cleansing. He's
What has happened?
I mean, okay, what has happened already?
Okay.
And he's trying to displace all these over 2 million Palestinians.
Have they already been displaced or are
No,
they still
but
in Gaza?
They're still in Gaza,
Okay.
but that's what Trump is proposing, basically.
To displace them and build this resort.
Yes, a resort
Yeah.
style. So I'm not sure how it's gonna go, but people all over the internet are going crazy about it. Not in a good way, because it's just unethical to me.
I think we have to. I mean, okay, yes. I mean, if you look at it, we look at it from a human level.
What else
doesn't
are you
look right? But
But
reality of the situation, that thing has happened. Like the ethnic cleansing has happened, right?
okay,
Most of Gaza has been reduced to rubble, right? It's a war
Right.
zone.
and who caused it?
Okay. No, I'm not arguing
Okay.
with that point. But we as humans, we experience time in a linear fashion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what has happened has happened. Something has to be done to move forward, right? And the US, they're going to see what's best for them, be it militarily, financially, because I mean it's going to be a lot of money, a lot of projects, a lot of billions, a lot of probably in the trillions to rebuild Gaza to the level that he wants, which is a separate issue of whether he's actually going to achieve it in the next 4 years. That's a whole different thing. Like, he's a real estate guy, I get that. He has experience in construction, I get that. But 4 years is quite a short time to rebuild a place as dense as Gaza, you know?
Yeah, and also
At least to make it to a point where it will become a tourism destination.
I think that's a long way to go for
Exactly.
Gaza to be,
Yeah.
because if you can see some of the images,
Even the psychological
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
people who want to go there, knowing that just 4 years ago kids were dying,
Mhm.
you know. But reality is reality, and they did say it to Iraq, say it to Afghanistan.
No, but now Iraq and Afghanistan, they're not like a tourist destination.
True, but the billions, the trillions have already went into the pockets of the executives who promised to rebuild the place. Money has been spent. So, I mean, it's reality of the situation. Whether it gets executed to the point where it becomes like what the AI video portrays, that's a different story. But whether it's going to be initiated, those projects are going to at least start the initiation process, for sure, dude.
I mean, first of all,
It's unfortunate, but it's life.
the video, if you saw it, I'm pretty sure you'd agree with me. It looks dumb, to be honest, because it's all just AI generated, and it's just they are trying to downplay all the atrocities that they've made before, and to be honest, it's crazy to me how at least the Trump supporters are perpetuating the fact that all this is okay. Like what happened, surely it's terrible, it's happened, but they're all saying like, oh, you know
You
what?
know why?
What?
You know why? At least his diehard supporters are supporting it because they want their money back. As Americans, they want their money back, and this is one way for them to make their money back. It's the same thing like what's happening with the US Ukraine mineral deal. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
Like in the past couple of days.
Oh yeah, apparently, yeah.
Zelensky's gonna come to the White House and sign the mineral deal.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be worth like in the trillions.
Yeah,
even.
yeah. Apparently
and
they're gonna
that's
sign
one
it.
way. Like you spend 500 billion. Sorry, I think it's been 350 billion, 360 billion around there, close to that. The figures that have come from the US
Right.
to Ukraine for the war since the war started, and if you make even a trillion off of 360 billion, that's profit, dude. So they're going to make their money back somehow. The US are going to look out for the US.
Yeah, but
Same as like what the Saudis and most of the oil-rich Arab states are doing by whitewashing sports, using like sports washing, right? Like they host
Right.
the World Cup, they do this,
Yeah.
do that, but all the humanitarian issues that they are involved in all get swept under the rug. You know, like the millions of people, or maybe not millions, but the people that have died building the stadiums, that actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, so in Dubai, the people that died during construction, even the people that died because of poor living conditions, the construction workers,
right.
nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
All right.
but it's reality, dude.
Okay, let's move on to some
Less depressing
less
news.
depressing news.
Lighter
Okay.
news.
All right, and we have actually a special guest today.
Yes, we do.
And I'm surprised we haven't had a shoe thrown at us already at this point.
More like
I also happen to believe in freedom of expression.
Yes,
so
yeah, that's great,
please
that's great,
do.
that's great.
And sometimes I think some amount of opinion with misinformation can be interesting.
yeah, yeah.
As long as your audience are clear about that,
Yeah, yeah.
nobody, is
like we like to tell them, we don't give you the news, we don't
yeah,
give
this
you
is
the
not
news.
news.
Yeah,
we
you
don't
just
give
have
you
to
the
be very
news.
clear
Yes,
that this is not
yes.
news.
We're just
we
talking,
always-
we're having fun with the topics.
Yes,
but
we always
it is
say
what it
to our
is.
audience to do your own research and take what we say, with a pinch of salt. So our guest today is Low Ngai Yuean. She is the president of Kakiseni, and
That's right.
she's also the founder of Women's Gem, which
No,
is
it's women girls.
Women Girls.
So it's Pertubuhan Pembangunan Kendiri Wanita dan Gadis.
Wow.
Okay.
The long name of it.
Wow.
Yeah, the long of it.
But GEM stands for
GEM is actually another.
Oh, GEM is different. Oh.
Is another NGO.
you can throw your shoe at me if you want.
It's okay, Jay. It's okay, Jay. I do wear so many hats sometimes.
Yeah.
And this I can understand, but yeah. And I'm not Trump, so you needn't have to remember half the things about me.
All right. So she has been in the industry, especially in the arts industry, for the last 24 years.
So this is debatable, depending on who you are speaking to
Okay.
and what you mean by arts
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Kan ramai, a lot of people are like, they want to be pedantic, I guess,
Yeah.
or they also want to make sure that the definition is right. I have attended so many different kinds of conversation where I have to qualify for many things.
Right.
So I can also understand why I will be challenged on many things too, because I think before you get to the right decision of trying to make something move forward, wherever you stand, you just kind of have to explain, qualify, make sure that you do get some allies in the process of doing it. So,
Right.
that's what it is. So, arts, yes. Art space, maybe. People
Yeah,
will
yeah.
agree, but arts industry, so the word industry, when you put it together with the arts, a lot of people are like, mana ada arts industry.
Okay.
Industry seni tu apa sebenarnya? So that question has never really been resolved properly, not in Malaysia anyway, because there seems to be a lot of understanding or thoughts that there is no industry lah.
Right.
So there is a creative industry. There is the film industry. There is the the world, the media industry. But
Right.
the arts industry is non-existent to a lot of people because there is no care, there is no support, there is no network to ensure that that it is receive all the proof that it can be allowed to survive. So we have more and more regulations and laws that come in on us, on the arts. But there aren't enough transparency in the first place to govern it. And then suddenly, ni tak boleh.
Yeah.
And then, it clamps down on them. There's already no support for funding and grants,
Yep.
for example. And that's for a very obvious reason, because the arts is, if you think about the arts, is very much like the upper stream, it's like petroleum.
Okay.
The upper stream where it is still bahan mentah, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So the arts is like bahan mentah lah. It's before you become a film actor.
Right.
You are on the stage, for example, because
Okay.
it's just a lot more accessible to showcase your ability on the stage.
Yep.
It's
Right.
a lot cheaper than how do you want to show an audition tape if you don't know somebody with a camera? This is from before. Today, of course, anybody
Yeah.
can shoot lah with a phone, right? It's so democratized that it's amazing. I love to live longer now
Yeah.
than before, to be
Right.
really honest. And I've never had this ambition wanting to live long before, but now with all those things that's really accessible, I want to live to 100
Wow.
and more and more. Okay, separate conversation that. Okay, but coming back to my point, it is really not. It's because it's the beginning of the stream.
Right.
So people kind of feel like you carilah jalan.
Right.
And whatever that's making more money downstream, they're already very sustainable. Well, more sustainable than whatever that's upper stream.
So you're basically referring to the grassroots of the arts movement, is it?
Most of the arts is about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Then the biggest stuff of the arts would be stuff like the museum. That is a building
Yeah.
curated to sort of like contain all the bahan-bahan persembahan or
Right.
the historical, the oral proof, for example, of something that's happened before, and they think that, this is historically and culturally important and socially needs to be kept. And
Right.
this is a decision made by not that many, surprisingly,
Okay.
to do this, this process. So then there's arts, there's culture, which culture is widely defined.
Yeah.
And then there's heritage, which to us would be like something that's extremely tangible lah. Like it has to be
Melayu.
tangible. It's like the building,
Yes.
it's like the place, it's like something that's happened somewhere before, and you have like bahan peninggalan,
Right,
that sort of
yeah.
stuff. So the arts is really the grassroots, the stuff that, let's say when we first started talking about the arts, right? It's really about a performance
Okay.
that's showcased, so let's say, to the king.
Okay.
Because where lah you will find normal people suddenly will have a performance in their house. Dah lah house bukannya besar kan. So it's impossible. So okay, in public spaces maybe. In public spaces, some performing arts, some arts will be shown, a performance like somebody's singing, somebody's dancing. To a
Usually
certain
with
extent.
patronage from a royal or
Yes, but
a
you
rich
kind of
person.
need someone to say, anda dibenarkan.
Yep.
Silalah.
Correct.
And this one saya hadiahkan kepada penduduk kampung.
Yes.
This persembahan like that. So it's really about that. And through the years, that's what arts is, really. And you would be, a lot of people will kind of say, alah, sold out lah you, dah sold out dah. Bila you
When you
masuk
become
filem,
successful, yeah.
bila masuk TV, you dah bukan macam, the you yang penuh dengan, principle and whatever. But, that's just jokes aside, right?
Yeah.
Hardly criticism or critique that can really be serious. But if your art form can reach to a wider number of people, then voila, you're considered successful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whether it's painting, whether it's buku like Shakespeare's,
Yep.
all the literature work that he's done and all the different literature stuff that's been written ever, it's only possible to be more mainstream, like have give people better access to what it was or what this one person think. But that's also a very selective process. If you think about it,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Like who made Shakespeare so much more accessible to so many people in so many countries at that too. It's probably a part of their penjajahan, right? And they want to like, what do I want to leave behind? Some literature, jom. What do we have?
Because we did adopt a lot of their education system.
We did.
Yeah.
And their thinking, the way they want to tell us certain things. There's clearly like
especially if you consider like pre-Japanese occupation, there's a lot of British education like permeated through our system.
and it continues without us realizing. And we still have them in our books without realizing. And on top of that, we cut out so many of our own culture, our own art, our own heritage from being learned by, the majority of education in school.
Right.
And that's a pity also because, but then who's having this conversation properly?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who's having this conversation? Who's doing the approval
not at the
process?
top levels is definitely not.
Yeah.
Not being had at all. Yeah.
To be really honest, the conversation that we're having here is like very rare punya conversation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that we actually give very little about arts, culture and heritage until when it truly matters, when it disappeared or when we are old and we're like, I want to show you example lah, my cucu, I want to show you example now. And then tiba-tiba, alamak, tak ada pun example. And then tiba-tiba, if asked, what did you do to protect them? Hello. And you're like, I did nothing. I didn't even go and, pay respect or watch or walk in and put the 2 ringgit as the door fee, right? I tak pernah pun buat benda-benda macam tu. I didn't even remember that Masjid Jami was built by who and why, for example. And why is it there, for example? So all these conversations were really the privileged few and we have nothing else
to talk about. And talk about this.
And that to me is a pity. It's really a pity. We're not giving this something that's so important to our very identity enough airtime ourselves to really debate about this. We hardly talk about this in school.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, we even do PJ, Pendidikan Jasmani, every week at least for 30 minutes. But do we talk about art? Yes, we draw something, but we don't talk about appreciation of art. We don't talk about, why are we always just drawing kampong house like this? For example, we say kampong, why is your kampong always going to be like this? Why, that appreciation, that kind of understanding of why that's stuck in most children's head was not really discussed. And it's changed. Today, you go to the school and you ask the kids to draw kampongku. My goodness, the kampongku bukan lagi kampong macam how we used to draw it. Already we are, that's 2 generations here.
Okay, so then do you think like some of the solution to this about how we can get this conversation going or how we can further the arts industry, even though you said it's like non-existent, the creative industry, I would say, can it be through schools? Like, can we implement more in terms of like in the art subject to include some of the other, like, I don't know, even I myself don't know about like local artists, to be honest. Yeah, so is that something that can be changed through school so that we can sort of, more people can have this conversation? So
that's what we're doing, to be honest. And I did not drive you here.
Right.
He came here himself on his own accord. So Kakiseni Junior is a platform that we have online that allows parents to look at different kind of classes aside from ballet and piano in the arts, so that you can understand, you could do a Bharatanatyam, you could do like an Indian dance or even Bangsawan, for example, Bangsawan classes. And these are going to give your children different kind of outlook and different kind of stuff about what they think art can be. Different medium, different ways to express themselves, for example. And then in school, so what we do is that we take Kakiseni Junior because of all the communities that we've built. We take Kakiseni Junior to school and expose not just children but teachers to the community of the arts that's quite immediately close to the school, so that you can understand who the artists are, what they're working on, how can you, let's say, put in Dondang Sayang in the way you berpantun happen, for example,
Right.
and how can, say, for example, wayang kulit be looked at differently? What is penglipo lara, for example, and how can they help you understand things quite differently? How storytelling has been for years and years, and how if you choose to be a storyteller, you can also choose this traditional style of doing it, but in a modern way or the way you want to interpret it. So this is stuff that we're currently doing in school. Unfortunately, not as a curriculum. It's an extra curriculum, simply because the MOE, and we work with Ministry of Education on this. So the schools that we go into, they are there to sort of like support us. They are there to make sure that we get to do the exposure of the children
Right.
and the teachers to the community of artists near that school, so
Right.
that they can continuously go back and say, oh, tengoklah ini, experience lah ini, that sort of stuff. But having said all this, the key of the thing is that, again, I just want to say, why is it not an industry? Is because it's not commercialized. When it's not commercialized, what it means is that it's actually not something that people make money from. So as an artist, not just in Malaysia, and this is something that's happening all around the world,
Right.
especially in countries where art is not a supported vertical, then you will see more and more that because there's no support, a lot of artists are part-timers.
Yeah.
They're part-time artists, not full-time.
Yep.
And does it make them feel? But it's a reality of life. You just kind of have to just go with that. I guess the more lucky artists are the ballerinas, because they there is a proper career progression that they can look
Definitely.
forward
Yes,
to.
yeah.
You
There's
can,
funding.
musicians, for example, there is. You boleh nampak lah.
Yes.
You boleh imagine you main dekat Philharmonic something, kan?
Yeah.
Right.
You can imagine. So even if you're if you're trained in theatre, for example, it's already far-fetched or hard-pressed to even think, okay lah, I'm going to perform lah in the Edinburgh Fringe. Not the Edinburgh Festival, but the Fringe Fest.
Yeah.
It's already hard-pressed to think you can, because
Yeah.
competition is just crazy. And to think that maybe if you are a writer, I think as a writer, you have more, you can write for film lah. No need to be just for stage lah, because it's really a lot less
Yes.
resources
Yes.
for that. So then with every single thing like this, you kind of have to think through, you have to be quite resourceful. And this is what we're trying to do, to provide as many resources as possible to tell you, boleh je, you nak pergi Edinburgh Fringe, boleh je. This is how you do it. You just go and make sure you have a space. You pergilah lease a space, whether it's a patch of grass ke, and you get permission to do it. I from this date to this date, which is the Fringe Festival. During this time, I am going to perform at this patch of grass,
Right.
or this tong sampah punya tepi, or this, well, it's wherever you want. Then you list that as part of the programming for the Fringe Festival, and voila, you will have audience.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
just want to enable this.
Yes.
But of course, is it a career? What do you say when your parents ask you what you're doing? When your makcik say, you tengah buat apa ah? Kereta apa you drive ah? Kereta. Tak perlu kot kereta. Ada je pengangkutan awam.
Yeah, Grab.
And
There is Grab, right?
and
Of course,
also
let's not talk about where the money comes from.
Yeah.
What
but
money?
okay. I get what you said, but for me, there's always a creative way, at least on the part of the authority figures. Like you mentioned Pelimpulara, for example, right? Pelimpulara, I think when I was in primary school, Pelimpulara was something that a storyteller, right? In the olden times. But even in today's world, especially if you want to make the connection, rap music. Rap music is that not the modern day Pelimpulara?
rap.
Rap music, yeah. You know, like Joe Flizzo, is that not our Pelimpulara now? Jokes aside,
You're right,
you
you're
know?
right.
Or
Like,
maybe his stories tak habis, but okay, boleh je.
whatever the case
Or
may be.
bits and pieces of Amboy,
Yeah.
okay je.
You
Okay
know,
also, I
yeah.
mean, it's very catchy,
Like
but where
you,
the story
you,
goes.
you sort of have to adapt to what
Sure,
people,
Mm.
what the vernacular is.
Sure,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So adaptation is one thing.
Exactly,
Preservation is
yes.
another
Yeah,
conversation, right? And preservation is another conversation altogether.
Yes.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And then we also want to talk about sustainability.
Right, of course.
Yeah, and I want to say that the choices of artists that we are talking about now are the ones who already made it successful. Tapi satu daripada berapa?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
The amount of rappers that I actually do know who came into the radio when I was doing radio. Back when, oh my God, lamanya dulu, and and how many of them are still around?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have all this because the support is not strong enough to make sure that they grow,
Right.
and that there is also the issue of consumer.
Yes.
We
Okay,
blur
okay.
case lah. We all, I don't know what to say lah. We blur case gila. We let the platform decide for us what's our FYP. Boleh? Tak boleh kot. Janganlah macam tu. I think we need to decide on our FYP. I swear. And I want to also tell the people in the yang pangkat tinggi-tinggi dekat negara kita ni,
Sure.
that maybe it's time we no need lah ministry yang tidak memandang tinggi to the creation of things that are like traditional. Kata we don't need, katakan, I don't know, RTM. For me,
Okay.
yeah, I'm just gonna put an example out there. I have to, because I'm so much older, so
Okay.
Right.
it's not easy for me to be so carefree like you guys.
Yeah.
So I do watch you guys with a lot of envy. It's like, bestnya dia orang boleh cakap benda-benda dia orang suka je.
Yeah.
But I have to consider the consequence. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say if we do away with STM, telecommunikasi,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And we put in place ministry TikTok,
Okay.
for example. So now the question needs to be, because that is the most accessible thing right now. People are looking at news from TikTok.
Unfortunately.
Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
conversation you just had about Gaza Trump or Trump
Yeah,
Gaza, right?
on
And
Twitter, on
it was
Instagram,
on
yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
So who is fact checking, talking about what was the context when Trump released it? Did he release it? Did he put on his X and say something? Was he taken out of context? Did he have a context?
Right.
But we know Trump
Yeah.
may not have so much of a context.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes he just want to say something very quickly and he just want to get that. This is what I imagine. The whole point is commercializing it.
Yeah.
And what he's trying to say is nothing to do with what's happening at Gaza Strip, for example. Maybe he's just saying
Exactly.
that, hey, if nobody's going to do this, I will step in and support it. Maybe that's what he's saying.
Exactly.
And how bad is that, for example? But he's also a great example of somebody who didn't care what everybody else had to say about what he's doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's quite an art form, I must say. Okay, but
Okay.
having said that, coming back to what we were
Yeah.
saying. So, Ministry of TikTok. Now, the conversation needs to be, under this Ministry of TikTok, what is the responsibility and what is the purview and what needs to be done to bukan nak stop tau, to mengangkat.
Okay.
Right.
We need to talk about if content creation is made so much easier today, from doing video to edit to putting in songs. How can a country like us, understanding that each one of us spend like more than 95 minutes, that's few hours,
On-
scrolling
yeah.
every single day. How do we make sure that it goes back to the content creators, to people who actually work really hard to try to sampaikan, their projection through arts, using TikTok as the platform, for example. But this conversation, nobody's had yet.
Yep. That's true.
So I really do think that there are just all these opportunities that just went unsolicited, unspoken about, not talked about.
I go further than to say that it's not talked about. I say it's quite avoided. Especially because if you look at it now, who wants to be a content creator? All the kids in school today want
Everyone.
to be content
Yes.
creators, right? But, and content creators, the influencers, they pump it up. They show a new handbag, a new car every 6 months.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may
lah.
be,
I want to say that's just, I don't know what is your FYP.
I don't know who you've been
I'm just saying
following.
that's the
No, it's not true.
materialistic part.
No, it's not true.
What do you mean?
Maybe you would like to see my FYP because on my FYP tak ada macam this kind of stuff. Memang tak ada.
I'm not saying that
He's not saying about your FYP,
your
like,
FYP in particular,
kids,
but
kids
No,
nowadays.
I'm saying some kids, whatever that they're watching, has nothing to do with all this kemewahan and stuff.
Okay.
I also ask that we do not immediately already say that this is the common trend. It's
Okay.
really not.
Okay.
There are a lot of children, and I'm saying this because I have got 4.
Okay.
And my youngest is 13.
Right.
And so I'm watching what she's watching.
Right.
And then a lot of stuff that she's doing is, okay, she's a huge animal enthusiast. Huge.
Okay.
Huge, okay? So she, at 13, talk about how to take care of the various different kind of animals, not just cats.
Right, right.
And she's talking about bugs. She's talking about that occasional squirrel
Right.
that is chased about in the neighborhood by cats. You know,
Right.
how do you get to them? How do you find out where do they stay? What can you do to help them? And this is what she's seeing.
Okay.
And she herself selectively picked out things that she feels like, this is not relevant to me, voila. This is
Right.
not relevant to me, and this is not relevant to me. And she picks out stuff. And I think a lot of people may not have the exposure
Okay.
that they can choose. But it is someone's duty, the ones who are enlightened, to sort of have this conversation with young people or teachers or whoever or school or whatever to tell them that, do you know you can choose, you can select, you can curate your FYP so that you can be a contributor instead of someone who's just thinking, hey, the world is like this. You need to see the world from all angles. So that angle of seeing kemewahan, the back, aside from Vivi, I really don't think that is so. This is just one segment. The makciks of the world lah. It's just one segment je yang tengok FYP diorang macam tu. But a lot more people, the kind of stuff that they're looking at. I have another child, and she is 21,
Okay.
and she's into activism for heritage. Nothing to do with me, she picked it herself.
All right.
And on her timeline, and the kind of stuff that she's always talking about is really about what can you do to build better buildings, and with what kind of material, what kind of responsibility every different people should have when they deal with the building of a new residential, the building of a new building or a new school area, whatever. What are the choices that's available? What are the stuff you should be asking?
Okay.
And her stuff is filled with stuff like this.
Okay.
Okay, but maybe that's like more of an anomaly, I would say. Maybe not.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
that
But
might
that's
be
up
the
to
case.
us. If we don't have a ministry
I
of
don't disagree
TikTok,
with you there. As a parent, I don't disagree with you there. You're absolutely right. It is obviously up to the parent to police at least 13, 15, 16-year-olds. It's still on the parents to police that. I don't disagree with that at all. But I'm saying what permeates the industry, we're talking about TikTok as an example, right? But Instagram has a whole different algorithm with pushing a whole different things. YouTube's FYP homepage is also a different algorithm pushing different things.
but you can curate it.
Of course you can.
Curate it.
I'm not saying you can't. But my point is simply that because of the fact that certain kids, maybe not all, but there are enough kids where, to me, it's a problem to have content creation as as an ambition without knowing all the facts. And one of the facts that, back to my point of the problem of content creation, is that not enough content creators, the influencers, like I was saying, they don't talk about the reality of it. The reality of the hard times of content creation. How it can be funding, money coming in, income, can be a matter of a project to project basis.
Yeah.
If you don't have projects for 3 months, you got no money coming in 3 months. And the money from your previous project has to stretch over those 3 months. That kind of thing. And that's not being discussed by the content creators, which, if you ask me, they would if they're telling me that they don't go through that stuff. Because to get somewhere, if they are really successful, if they really did work hard, you have to go through hard times. It's just
And
That's just the prerequisite for it.
But the good news is today there are just so many ways to make money. So as a gig worker, for example, so sometimes you really tak perasan that sebagai content creator, you juga seorang gig worker.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you are also doing all kinds of stuff, like you are translating documents, you are,
Right.
doing some strange subtitling or redoing some artwork,
Doing
the
content
copy, for example, and you
Yeah.
get a couple of hundreds here, a couple of hundreds there. So you get better, you get thousands, right?
Yeah.
But you keep doing. So I want to say when people get really busy and getting into the doing, they forget that it's
Tunnel
hard
vision,
time.
yeah.
They
Yep.
just think that it's just part of it.
Yeah.
So they will imagine everybody face the same thing too.
Right.
They don't imagine that you need to be taught. Now the
Right.
issue here is then if we understand this, then don't you think it's already too late? We aren't talking to the young people, the 7-year-olds from Standard 1 about, how content are being made and how to make better content
Yeah.
as a subject. As a subject. How do you discern content? How do you watch content and contribute to it? That's why we see all the comments kan yang was made by whatever content you put on, the kind of comments that you get is like, alamak, ini segmen apa ni? Dari mana diorang datang ni? Come on,
Yeah.
educated sedikit.
Yeah.
So those things are not happening. But I really think these are not natural. And I think we have so much opportunity in this country to get into that. And that, for me, is a little bit of the art. A little bit of it.
Right.
Because what the various platform has done is that it's enabled and it's giving us so much access to just do it yourself.
Right.
Before this, you hanya seorang audience.
Right.
Tapi today, you can be the creator.
So many tools. Yeah.
And you don't have to be a creator your whole life.
Yep.
You can be a creator, 5% of the time, maybe 5% of your life, and that could mean just 1 year in your whole life, or that could mean maybe 2 months every other year for 5 years, for example. And that's completely fine.
Yeah.
Because the one thing then you are actually doing is the more important conversation is that you are getting nearer to understanding your identity.
Right.
We are preserving, the years of historicals that we have without looking at them and think that this is such a, because our country is we're third world, right? We're trying to
Technically.
developing. We're trying to grow, and we're trying to be very tech, very modern.
Yeah.
And then we view art and everything, culture and heritage, like some baggage, like some alamak heavynya kalau kita boleh build lah kan macam skyline of New York dekat sini macam ni and semua ni kita bunuh, maybe it's better.
That's
But-
part of the problem, though.
Yeah,
That
it's
we have
true.
been so culturally intertwined with the US. Not even with the UK, who colonized us for so long, but with the US. Have you noticed that?
Actually, yeah, it's the
Culturally, like we are so intertwined. The whole TikTok behavior, the whole doom scrolling thing, all that is Western culture, dude.
A lot of media that we consume also in Malaysia are like
American.
American.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually.
Yeah.
But
Not
now
British.
it's Korean.
Now it's Korean. Yeah.
And then we're asking, kenapa dia orang boleh berjaya?
Yes.
I'm like,
But they were also like a satellite government.
Okay,
of
so
the
I
US.
think one of the problems that we have, especially for the majority of Malaysia, I would say you're an artist, so it's a pretty niche industry, I would say, in Malaysia. So for a lot of other Malaysians, they are either not exposed to, they're not art is not like accessible to them. So what is the solution when it comes to like let's say the Ministry of Arts or whatever? Are they doing more damage to the whole industry, or okay, sorry to put you on the spot like this, but what do you think can be changed, especially from the top, so that it can what's the word I'm looking for? It's like trickle down to the rest of the majority or the people of Malaysia, so that they have more access to art in Malaysia. They themselves can have this sort of conversation. They themselves can create more content. So what, other than the education, what do you think?
So I really do think that government intervention in reviving or in keeping or in growing the arts is really tak boleh diharapkan. No, bukan tak boleh harap. Different ah. Kita tak patut
You cannot
mengharap.
rely on it.
okay.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be asking for it, to be really honest. And I just want to say that a lot of things are actually something we can do. I think it is up to, if you are a parent, please take your child out to a museum.
Okay.
Please go find where Hang Tuah is hidden. I swear, you have to go and find Hang Tuah. It's missing. Find it. If you're a parent, you got to take your child out to a show. You got to introduce one literature, super literature dude to your child. And even if you just read that one syair, you read lah. You got to just and then ask them the question of, what do you think and how can this be a part? Or how do you see this? Have this conversation with them. I think that's something that every person can do. You tak payah nak, look to the government to tell us to do this. We can do that already.
But what if then you create content that for a lot of people think, okay, this is art. This is a story that needs to be heard. But then the government or whoever is in charge will be like, okay, this is actually not... It's not what we are. It's not what we consider as art, and it's like disrespectful to us.
So for me, there are people who will be fighting for that. So for example, back to your earlier comment, without a contoh one, Mak Yong, for example, in Kelantan, when UNESCO Heritage say that, this is really amazing, intangible heritage, we want to award you with something, and then the Kelantan government step in and say that this is very un-Islamic, this is very salah, we ban. So then suddenly overnight, then all the Mak Yong artists have to become security guard lah. They're artists tau. They have to become security just to makan. Kan? If not, how to, right? If not, it's difficult, right? But then continuously, there are always activism driven to make sure that this is going to be better. So the lobbying is done at the Kelantan State, lobbying is done at all the various different points that could help them get a case back, right? And then it's also done at UNESCO, done at United Nations, done every single part of the way. And so then it was lifted.
Right.
This ban was lifted. Did it take time? Yes. Did the artist become a security guard for a few more years? Yes. Sorry. But there are people who would continuously do this. There are. Because it's just how a society works. It's just how it works. And that's beautiful already. So to be really honest, we cannot not do something thinking that it will be stopped anyway. So if it's a assumption that you buat pun tak guna, nanti kan orang stop you, nanti kan kena censor, then nothing happens. Don't worry about it. Somebody's going to save you. You just got to have that conviction. Now, the conversation needs to be about the doing. So in a couple of conversations that we've been having, the arts world that I'm hearing about from the UK, from the US, they're so angry because there is increasingly less and less support in funding from the government. So much so that the museums of the world, from the MoMAs, and they're talking about, we want to limit what we're doing in a year because we cannot be doing more with less resources, and we also don't want to perpetuate that we can. Now, while I understand how it works theoretically, but if you think about who is going to harm is actually the next generation. So then you will then tak boleh lah, kita kena buat lah, tak kisah ada duit ke tak ada duit, kita kena cari lah. Right. That's something you got to do, whether the government decides to or not. But at the same time, there will be another group of people who will be fighting and showing the government, this is what you can do, this is how you can do it, etc., etc. So to be really honest, I thought countries like South Korea, Japan, amazing stuff. China, doing quite amazing work. Yes, there are censorship. Yes, I understand. There are. I mean, if you are taking the government's money, you kind of need to understand what you are bound by, what your boundaries are. There's a certain amount of that. Now, they don't come knock on your door and kill you off, just senapang. But they
will silence you.
They will tell you, hello.
Hey, watch what you're talking about.
We are trying to make sure we mendamaikan 2 billion manusia. And what are you trying to do? And this is at the government's expense. So, and I feel sometimes this again becomes a negotiation, and that the art shouldn't be afraid of this kind of negotiation. You negotiate lah. This is freedom of speech. You want to be able to showcase that you can do this because when you talk like this or when you say this part, I actually mean this, and this is a great lesson for more people, etc., etc. But the negotiation needs to happen, and most of the time we always glamorize, the scandal of it, like, oh,
He's gonna
you
get
know, he did
cancelled.
this
Yeah.
and you got cancelled by the
Yeah.
government, or the government said that, or tiba you hilang daripada muka dunia.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, you come back with 1 of your 2 years less. I don't know, right?
Like Jack
But
Ma.
it just feel like it's so dramatized.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that you don't know. When I ask you to come sit down in the office and explain to me, you come lah kan. Pasal you explain lah. If it takes you 6 months to explain, it takes you 6 months to explain lah. Tak adalah I buat electric dekat you ke. We don't know that.
That we know of. Yeah. That
We don't know that.
Yeah.
Right? But we like to imagine that
Yeah.
because that's like a way more fun imagination anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that there are amazing examples that countries are preserving historicals. Yes, were they also trying to change some of the data or the facts? That's a completely different conversation again. But there are countries that are doing so much to ensure that the conversation of the arts continue.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to every different country may be different. But it's just a waste that if we are only leaving this to the powers to be, because the powers to be most of the time in today's climate really is a political reality.
Yeah.
And in a conversation about politics, they rather divide than menyatukan kita.
Yeah, for sure.
And so therefore, I want to put it on each person to bersatu padu themselves and just to do the very minimum. Be enlightened yourself and then enlighten your friends during Mama.
Right.
Enlighten your friends. Apa-apa je lah. Go watch a show lah. Go have a proper discussion about the Malaysian movie you've seen lah.
Right.
Go do something that's not scrolling. And if you are scrolling, do something about how this is actually seen from a point of view of, heritage or culture, or how is it changing us, for example.
I feel like
Have those conversations.
I feel like a big barrier, to be honest, a big barrier in this conversation, it is the Asian parenting style. Unfortunately, how
Aren't you a parent?
yes I am. I have two little.
Are you
girls.
still an Asian parent?
No, I'm not. But I mean, when we are just like people in my generation are just entering the parenting sphere, So, I mean, we are trying out like we are seeing how the past has not always jived with us. But I'm just saying, for my generation, looking back, my parents were like the typical Asian parents. Do well in school, sports. If you can do well in school and play sports, great. If you can do well in school and play sports and be
Act.
part of a play, even better.
Awesome.
But do well in school first, So I feel like a lot of, especially Malaysia, the biggest problem I think would be that.
No,
And
but it's changing. It's
I hope so.
greatly
I hope so.
changing.
I
It's
hope so.
changing from the child's perspective already. I have so little control over what my kids like to do and the kind of conversation that they like to have nowadays
Right.
compared to I can see I have 4 different children, different time. So I can already tell how much the conversation is reduced.
Right.
And so the way they are thinking is already very different from how you imagine.
Yes.
And that's really amazing. Really, really amazing. Because as a parent that I'm constantly learning, it's like, what I think is enough is actually not enough. Like, so far. And we don't even know their exposure and the level of how they think because they are exposed to as much as we are.
Yep.
Their understanding of it, however, is very different from how we're seeing it because we see it with experience that sometimes will give us that certain bias that they don't have. But because we cannot undo this bias, then we're kind of stuck. So what is it that they're looking at? What are they seeing when they see this? So these are conversations that are not enough and they don't want to have conversation with parents, We're boring
Yeah.
and old and it's just like how we feel about our parents.
All right, so we've got like a bit more time, maybe for 1 or 2 more questions. Okay, so being in the industry for 20 years, I'm sure you've had some highs, you've had lows. What would be your advice for young budding artists or content creators? Based on some of the challenges that you might have faced, what can you advise them regarding this, basically on how to survive? Because most of them, especially in this industry, like they had to, like you said, like maybe work security guard jobs or do like a bit of side jobs you know. So how would you like navigate that as a young artist?
I think what's wonderful today, as opposed to how it was before, is the fact that we no longer have to be alone. Collective collaboration is so common nowadays. You don't even have to explain what it is. You know, the fact that an artist can work with an engineer and come up with some piece, and the fact that an artist can work with the medical doctor and talk about something, it's not new concepts anymore. It's not like, what do you mean? Tak faham lah aku. It's not. It's something that people already can accept. And then therefore now, how do they monetize this? It's something that actually it's like it's a disruption that you can introduce. It's no longer tak pernah buat lah, orang tak tahu lah.
There's no right way to do
no,
it. You can
it's
just
up
do
to
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's totally up to you. And then you just need to be, if you don't know how to do it, just collaborate with more people. Get more people to be a part of what you're trying to do. And voila, test and try, test and try, test and try. The good news about this generation really is that we're not kebuluran. We're not focusing on that. We really tak adalah sampai you know, zero money for a whole year, for example.
Poverty is not really our issue. Yeah, that's kind of true.
It's an issue, but not
our issue.
not so
Yeah.
pressing
Not
like
the
we're going
issue.
to die
Yeah, yeah.
type of thing tomorrow
For sure.
type. Yeah, and
You're right
because
about
of that, which means that you now have a lot more space and freedom to go after the things that you want to test and try.
Yep.
And so now what is missing is just, you know, some courage. Just go do it. I think you don't know until you do it. And you can't really say until you've tried it. And the process of trying is very important, because an artist's life, to be honest, is defined not by the kind of work they put out, it's defined by the journey that they've had.
Right.
It's the story of an artist's journey that people are going after, that they are like, whoa, I want to role model myself based on that journey. And look, if an engineer, very susah kot. You want to tell people your journey because actually, is that really
Your path is
just
laid out.
you?
Yeah.
Is
Your
it
path
just
is
you
laid
or
out.
your company? Yeah, which one? But an artist's journey can be so interesting, and you always constantly document it, record it, put it out there. It is part of it. So it's really the process, it's really the journey. So just go for it. You may feel that the low is like macam
Crushing.
hopeless and crushing, but what if the lows is what going to take you high tomorrow? But understand that in an artist world, the timeline doesn't necessarily mean to be, oh, tomorrow means besok ah. No, tomorrow can really mean
10
5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But, and does it mean that you have to be an artist all your life? As in like, what I mean to say is, in terms of career move, because you don't see a proper ladder. Kalau you work in a bank, it's very clear, right? After this step, you go to the next step, until wherever you stop lah. But in an artist world, in an artist journey, you tak boleh nampak. You can't even see the ladder. The ladder ke, is a bridge ke, you can't see it. So there's good and bad. The good is you get to define it. The bad is maybe you sometimes are just, you know, moving around a dark room until you find some light and you go towards the light maybe, or you don't know if you're moving backwards, you're not sure. But these are the stuff that forces an artist to think and to consider and to challenge themselves all the time, which is not available to other career. It's really not.
Yeah.
So these are the stuff that's pushing the boundary of humanity. That's what artists are about. So because of that, you push lah. That's your job as an artist. That's really what it is.
I'm the conservative here. Dude. I don't push the arts. You push the arts. You're the one wearing the batik today. Not me, man.
Yeah, I think I
I'm
feel you very
preserving
artist.
the heritage.
No, he's definitely the more liberal. He's the liberal.
Okay. Okay. Before we end the podcast for today, is there anything that you might want to share, especially regarding like some of your newer projects or anything you're working on right now?
Yeah, so please don't be afraid to come to us. We're Persatuan Kakiseni. And this year in 2025, we're celebrating 20 years of legacy of
Wow.
the Cameroon Arts Awards.
Congratulations.
And we've
Amazing.
given out like more than 500, near 600 awards in the 20 years span, right? In the 19
And
years
if I'm not
span.
mistaken, each year you added more and more categories. Am I right?
Not necessary.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a prerequisite at all.
All right.
It really depends on what's being put out for the year.
Okay.
Now the point is that I think because of so much richness, and if you want to collaborate, you should use us. So katakan you want to collaborate with Dato' Zahim Al-Bakri, one of the greats that we've had for theatre. His direction, his eye for what he sees on the stage is really quite something. And if you want to collaborate with him and you are, let's say, somebody who's starting anew and you don't know how to bridge that conversation, you come to us, we'll bridge it for you. So this is stuff that we can already do to sort
that's
of like,
great.
you know, bring you closer to what you would like to test. It's like in the era of Picasso, for example, if I had like somebody who would introduce me to him back in that time, I mean, like, you know what, that would change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How that would make me different?
That would be
for
so
example.
amazing, yeah.
So we're offering that.
Okay.
As long as they're alive, we can do it.
Wow.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great.
Wow. Thank you so much for the work that you've done over the last 20 years. And thank you so much for being here on the show today. It's been such a pleasure, actually, to talk to you.
Great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
I hope there's less generational gap. I was so worried.
Didn't feel
oh
it
my
at
God,
all.
I'm going to a show. I'm going to sound like I'm scolding them. So is it going to be a generation gap? Are you guys going to, oh my God, roll eyes, roll eyes. Is the producer at the back, oh my God, why is she here? She's like a mak mertua macam tu.
Absolutely
I was
not.
so afraid of that. I don't know why you didn't sleep last night, but this is why I couldn't sleep. I'm like, okay, how do I tone down? Because you know, the energy you have on your show, you relax gila.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I duduk pun ada straight duduk, you know? I'm like, fuyo.
Yeah.
Love. Oh my God. How do you do a show like that?
No, the thing is, we do this. We've done this like with our group of friends. This is what we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
That's
This is
where
what
the
we
show
do,
came from. So we don't care.
Yeah.
Like if
We-
we got into this like eyes wide open. If we get cancelled after 6 episodes, we get cancelled. So what?
Yeah.
We don't care.
I know, right? This generation, nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It is not the same with how we think. Tak boleh lah cancel. Kena do the best.
that's the PTSD
Yeah.
from the Asian parenting, right?
I know,
Yeah.
right? I know. That's why
our generation
I
got over it
zip now.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I zip now,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And my kids is like,
Yeah.
suka lah. Okay, I support whatever.
Yeah.
And even then I feel like, who says that? Who says that?
Yeah. Our generation is not afraid to scold our parents. You screwed up the
wow.
world. You know? They screwed up the world for us.
Well, I wouldn't dare to say that to my parents.
You wouldn't?
No.
I see that every Sunday, dude.
But if they didn't,
What they did? Their generation did, of course. Screw up Malaysia, screw up the world.
So what? What
That's
is
what previous generations do for the next generation. They screw it up.
no,
Yeah,
that's not
They make you
true.
guys
But-
fix it.
A lot of us build it too.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Temporarily, if you want to talk about it. But
No, but I guess it's up to us to make it better.
Yeah, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
You Mara I, what are you doing about it?
All right. On that
don't
note,
care.
I'm passing you the ball, BJ.
No, I don't care. Like,
Ball's in your
I'm
court.
on this world to enjoy my time here. My kids got to worry about that themselves.
so
know what I mean?
you're part of the problem then.
Huh?
I agree.
You could. Make
Yeah, you
the
know what the
world-
problem is?
What?
Humanity. That's the problem.
Yeah, but he's not humanity. That's what he's saying.
You like to
he's
think so.
Saja.
You like to believe so. But evidence is otherwise.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, Yuan, for joining us
It's
today.
a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Great to have
and,
you.
Yeah, and for our viewers, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and as usual, don't take what we say for like
Literal.
literally. Do your own research. You know,
Have your own say.
Yes, do your own research. Read news articles and
Buy your own batik.
Draw your own.
Draw your own
Draw
batik.
your
Why
own
not?
batik. Yeah.
No, buy your own batik. Keep the industry going. Come on. You make your own. No one, you know.
No,
money is gonna-
because you make your own, then you understand how susah and impossible it is to make it.
Yeah, and if you criticize like any films or theater shows, anything, try do it yourself. See how that goes. All right. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace.
Let's go.